Instant gratification. Let that marinate for a minute. Let's explore the concept of seeking immediate satisfaction and the impact it has on our lives, in particular, our careers. Transaction Care, the podcast. Welcome home to the #1 real estate show on the market. I am your host and resident care coordinator, Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lilly. My goal with each episode of Transaction Care is to demystify the business of real estate from my point of view and interviews from other voices within the real estate industry around the world. I'm giving you the keys. There are no gatekeepers here. Head to transactioncarepodcast.com to join my TC community and to be sure you are subscribed to Transaction Care, the podcast, so you know exactly when new episodes are released weekly. I'm going to reference one of my favorite films, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The Gene Wilder version, not the Johnny Depp one. So, spoiler for anyone that hasn't seen this amazing film. But basically, these kids win a chance to visit the large chocolate factory and they get to meet Willy Wonka and they get to try all the sweets and treats before it even touches another store or the public. They get to see how it's made, they meet the Oompa Loompas, etc. So there are a series of lessons throughout the whole film, but this one scene in particular comes to mind as I was planning this episode, and it was the Veruca Salt scene. So if you know, you know. I'm going to break it down just a little bit, but Veruca Salt was quote unquote the bratty, very privileged character, and in her last scene she is begging and begging her dad, who can't say no to his baby girl, for a golden egg. In this particular scene she breaks into song and dance yelling, "I want it now," referencing the golden eggs, until she eventually falls down the egg scale and disappears for good. But if you watch the entire film to the very end, you learn that, with patience, discipline, care, hard work, all of that good stuff, you eventually will get the golden eggs and so much more. So much more than you can even imagine. Full spoiler alert, Charlie inherits the chocolate factory. The entire thing. I want to have this conversation not to discourage anyone from seeking instant gratification or eliminating that completely from your life. No, I think we should take risks. I think some things need to happen sooner than later, but not everything. And I want to speak from my own personal experience based on what I've been going through lately with my business and how it's been delaying a lot of what I could have been either done with or gotten in the progress of starting. I was very much in my Veruca Salt era for a moment. And I'm working on embracing my Charlie because not everything needs to happen today. In fact, I'm not even ready for the things that I am envisioning in my life. I don't want to say I'm not ready. I'm just saying that if it were to happen today, would I be able to maintain it? Would I be able to create longevity for whatever it is that I'm seeking and wanting to achieve? Because when it comes down to it, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So I'm going to stay ready. So for the life of me, I had a lot of trouble planning out the future. And that was a result of my need for instant gratification, is what I've realized in more recent time. And having that new self-awareness of myself, like, oh, the reason I wasn't finishing this particular task was because, one, I either didn't believe it was going to happen. Two, I didn't want to wait that long, knowing that, okay, let's just say I want to buy a house in 2 years. That felt so far, so long. It just didn't feel possible. But I was like, well, how can I buy a house today? How can I expedite this process today? Knowing the reality of it all is financially, is my credit good? Is my credit history good? Do I have enough for closing costs, deposit, reserves, etc., 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 right? And it isn't to say that I won't ever own a house, but something as big as that it does require some thought, some discipline, and a different approach to just, let's make it happen overnight. Unless you got it like that, more power to you. But I don't yet. So I was hitting this roadblock with planning out my whole year because it was hard for me to believe it would actually happen. And I really had to sit with myself and sit in that thought and that mindset, because in reality, I'm pretty optimistic. I like to, be as positive about things. I understand that I have to accept all parts of my day, of my life, of my week, because the first part of my day could be happy. The second part could be terrible, right? It fluctuates. And when it came to sitting with how I envisioned my life and my future through setting goals and listing out, what are my dreams? What are my big goals? And I realized that I was avoiding completing that task because deep down, my fear of, if I put in all this time and it doesn't happen, oh my God, I'm going to be so disappointed. I'm going to be so sad. Am I going to have to start all over? What does this even mean? So my self-saboteur took the fast-paced elevator up to my brain and took over. And I was just like, I can't think like this. Is it a possibility? Absolutely. But there are more opportunities. I'm leaving that in as confirmation that I'm right. That if I focus on the opportunities instead of the loss, the lack, the what ifs, the scarcity mentality, the failure, if I focus on the opportunities, more good will be a result of my actions versus my inaction. And that's where the instant gratification would come into play, because I would constantly do things on a sprint versus accepting that this is actually a 5K, a half marathon, a marathon. Or maybe I'm running a series of marathons, but in different cities, different terrain. And for a period, this entire year, actually, I was so deep in certain projects that everything else I just wanted to be quick and easy, because I was so exhausted from having to wait, be in the unknown, be insecure, self-loathing at times, sad, depressed, when it's like, can I just have a bunch of good things happen? And that's why I go on Instagram. That's why I go have my food delivered on Instacart or whatever apps, because it's quick and easy. It's less thinking for me, less decision fatigue. I can experience the entire world through one click of a button without hesitation. But in my real world, it was a click of a button and then a big space of, okay, I'm going to become a coach. I need to go through this certification program. That's going to be 6 months of my life. And then it's over. And I don't have any business yet. I don't have any clients yet. What went wrong? Why didn't it happen overnight? I was working with people and now I'm not. This part of the process is one that we tend to avoid. This is the space that I'm either going to give up, keep going, or just keep getting a bunch of quick spikes of adrenaline, or quick spikes of achievement, versus really sitting down and building out a full-fledged business. Because this isn't instant coaching. This is my full-time business, my full-time career. The same thing with this podcast. I was focused on 5 different projects a year ago today. And I tried my hand at all of them, and they were all failing because I wasn't giving the proper amount of time and energy into the one project. So through a lot of coaching, a lot of reflection, journaling, praying, meditation, reading. Shout out to the 12-week year. That book really, really helped me. But I realized that, okay, I have to put my ego to the side and pick one thing on this list and see how it turns out. And that's the podcast. I chose the podcast. I let go of the idea of my YouTube channel, starting a merch line, so many other things, right, that fell to the wayside. But it doesn't mean that those things can't happen. But for me personally, and maybe for you as well, I had to prove to myself and build that proof of concept, that trust, not just with myself, but with the ability. I had to build the skills as well in order to tackle one major project and then allow the branches to grow from there. So that was the podcast. And then fast forward to this year, my main focus has been coaching, because now the podcast has been integrated into my lifestyle. It's second nature at this point. I've almost hit 50 episodes. I've done well over 10 interviews. I'm very proud of myself at this point in the game. And that was all due to not accepting the instant gratification of, oh, I need to get 1,000 downloads my first episode. How? When no one knows who I am. Outside of family and friends and a few people within the real estate community, I have to build trust with them as well. You know, it's going to take a few episodes. It's going to take a few weeks, maybe even a few months, maybe a couple of years. I feel like I'm still getting started with the podcast, but the fact that I've already integrated into my weekly, daily life, and it has become second nature because I didn't seek that immediate satisfaction, I'm now able to move forward with those same skills, that same mindset into whatever's coming next. But of course, I'm not perfect. No one is. I still fall into those traps of, I want it now, my Veruca Salt moments, right? And I have to constantly identify, what am I avoiding? That is my number one self-saboteur. I am a serial avoider. So anytime I want to go for that quick fix, that quick result, I have to stop and be still and embrace the pause, embrace the unknown, and go from there. And really be rational, practical, realistic with what I am facing moving forward. And if you want to know your self-saboteur, I'm going to put a link to the assessment that I did on positive intelligence. My coach recommended it to me, and it has been something about identifying, naming the things that you're unaware of, your blind spots, your insecurities. Giving it a name actually helps to take away some of that power you've given it for so many years. And knowing that I'm an avoider, I'm able to catch myself in the midst of it happening. Or if I'm too deep into the avoidance, I'm like, okay, let me go into my imaginary toolbox and see, okay, what have I not done? Have I exercised this week? Am I hydrated? Have I talked to someone I love? Do I need to dance, take a minute for a dance break, play my favorite song, pause this work I'm doing and just give myself the day off? Or maybe I need to work harder. Maybe I need to grind for this week, this month, and that's okay. I don't think that working long hours or short hours is going to hurt anyone, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on. If you're someone that grinds, learn how to pause, learn how to be still. If you're someone that's more on the chill side, have a couple days where you're just going hard on, hard. You're in it, you're focused, you're disciplined, and see what happens. I'm right now in a season of grinding. I'm working on hitting my targets that I said I was going to hit this year. And there's only about 6 or 7 weeks left in the year. That's a lot of time. I built this podcast in less than 6 weeks last year in order to get it where it is today. And this is just pure organic growth. I didn't really have a full-fledged strategy or plan. I just knew that I have to start it. And it's going to be a journey. Again, not everything has to be a sprint. Same with working out. I love sprinting, but sometimes I need to put in that whole hour of a workout. 10 sprints here and there is great, but it's okay to just go for a walk for an hour. Put the treadmill on incline. Have some resistance. Slow down the process and go from there. So With all of that said, and thank you for allowing me to share my personal journey and just giving you a taste of what's going on in my mind, I want to provide you all with some ways to combat instant gratification that involves, building habits and strategies to pretty much delay that need for the immediate rewards for more of a significant long-term benefit, if you will. So here are 3 key points to help you combat instant gratification. Get your notebook out, pause this, hit the bookmark button, rewind it, share it with a friend, share it with 10 friends actually, because the more people know about this, the more lives we can uplift and encourage on a daily basis. How does that sound? All right, let's get into it. Goal setting and prioritization. So we have to set clear goals and defining our short and long-term goals, knowing what you want to achieve provides a sense of purpose, and it really just helps you to stay focused on the bigger picture. And then begin to prioritize your tasks. Like if you have a bigger goal, break it into smaller goals. So you still get that kind of quick fix, that quick hit of like achievement, but it's geared towards it'll compound into eventually hitting that bigger goal or a variation or version of that bigger goal. And creating manageable tasks, prioritizing these tasks based on their importance and impact of your overall objectives. So finding a way to prioritize these tasks so then that way there's less chance of a lull, idle time. Because for me, I know when I'm idle, my mind just wanders. I'm not going to even hold you. The devil starts to play with my mind and I'm just having all these negative thoughts, these self-loathing thoughts. It's just not fun. And when I have my calendar open with a breakdown of all the smaller goals that I need to achieve in order to get to my bigger goal, I'm more likely to have what I consider a successful day, a winning day, versus those days where I don't have anything planned out or I just ignore my calendar altogether. Those tend to be the tougher days when I'm really just in my own head. So next, you want to work on developing patience and mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness, what is that, right? So cultivating mindfulness to become more aware of your thoughts, your emotions, and impulses. I'm an Aries. I am very impulsive. I'm aware of that. And I'm actively working on not being as impulsive. Again, I don't want to rid myself of this trait because I do feel like it can be a plus in certain elements in certain situations, but not all the time. I don't have to be 100% impulsive, right? And creating mindfulness techniques for myself, such as meditation. Meditation. I just started implementing this into my life this year. And when I say game changer, it can really just help you observe your desires without immediately acting on them, right? So if I'm struggling with making a decision, I'll set a timer. I'm at about 20 minutes of uninterrupted meditation for myself. And I set the timer to just allow myself to be present with that thought, seeking the answers, listening to my body, listening to my experience, listening to the thoughts that are surrounded and attached to that either problem or decision that I have to make. But meditation has worked wonders for me, right? Next, let's talk about delaying gratification. So training ourselves to delay the immediate rewards. So when faced with tempting options, pause and consider the potential long-term consequences. Developing patience is a skill. I want to say that again. Developing patience is a skill that can be strengthened over time. Do you agree? Is patience a skill you need to work on in your life, whether it's business, personal, wherever you are in life? I can easily admit that patience is something that I thought I was a patient person, but as I've grown older and more self-aware, I realize my patience does wear thin at times, and I'm actively working on strengthening that skill again over time. And lastly, I think it's important to create accountability and support systems. If you ever want to work one-on-one with me, I do offer paid coaching services for anyone interested in that. I am a life and success coach with a focus on building your confidence. and developing strategies such as these in this conversation in order to navigate life with more ease and to be able to thrive in environments that we typically weren't comfortable in or weren't so confident in. Message me and we can get that set up, because as you know, or maybe you're just now listening to this, I talk about my journey with working with a coach and how that's elevated my life to so many different levels, and it's just worth it. It's worth paying for. It's worth that personal investment, truly. And I have no regrets whatsoever with working with a coach, becoming a coach. 3 years ago, I toyed with the idea, and here I am today with a podcast, a coaching business. I'm still doing transaction coordination, but I've found a new passion and love for being able to serve others in other ways that don't involve just working within the files. It's through this podcast. It's through coaching. It's through my social media. I love being able to talk to people around the world. It's amazing how in 60 seconds or less, I can pick up my phone. Well, this is an example of positive instant gratification, but I can pick up my phone, hit record, post something, and that can help someone in the world. So that's just an example that I unintentionally named, that where instant gratification is great. But do I want to base my business on randomly posting on a daily basis? No, I don't. I want to have some sort of plan. Like, if this happens, then I will do this. When I hit X amount of followers, I'm going to reach out to these people to collaborate, or whatever the case may be, right? So this comes back to my last point of creating accountability and support systems, right? If I am building my social media and I do grow a larger audience of 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 followers, there's a sense of accountability that I have to show up for these people that may be seeking something from me. Now, can I help every single one of them? Can I be their savior? No. They have to take action the same way I have taken action to help myself. But having that support system, or that, maybe an accountability partner that can, be a result of watching my content or someone else's content, someone to share your goals with, like even a family friend or your friends, your family, a colleague, someone just to hold you accountable. And you guys can work with each other on those goals to say, hey, all right, we'll check in every 2 weeks. We'll check in every month, see how we're doing. We'll work on these 10 tasks by the end of the week, whatever the case may be. But knowing that someone else is aware of your objectives can really motivate you to stay on track. Believe me, when I share my goals, I feel that pressure, but it's a good pressure. And I embrace that pressure because I know that on the other side of me telling someone is the action and the results that I truly desire, versus just keeping it to myself, not creating that plan, not having that accountability or that support, and delaying my own results, and then eventually experiencing the bad pressure where my back is up against the wall. And now I need to get something done quickly because I said I was going to do this in a month, and then now 4 weeks has gone by, and that's where the instant gratification kicks in. All right, well, let me just do a bunch of these little things and see what happens. It happens, guys. I'm human. But lastly, building a support network, surrounding yourself with people who share similar values and goals. I'm here. This podcast is available to you. The many guests that I have interviewed, there are like-minded people in my industry that I share similar values and goals with, and I've created a network for myself that I can reach out to them for, certain tips about maybe social media or real estate, business, money, whatever the case may be. Having a supportive community can provide you with encouragement, advice, shared experiences, because believe me, when you work for yourself and you're home, working from home 7 days a week, 5 days out of the week, whatever the case may be, 8 to 12 hours a day, it gets really lonely. And sometimes you feel like, am I the only one going through this? And that's why having that supportive network, those accountability partners, you can share like, I was having a crappy day because so-and-so said this. And then sometimes when you hear someone else say, oh wow, I went through the same thing a year ago, tends to make it easier to resist the allure of like instant gratification or making rash decisions, because it just feels like you're isolated from the world. So having a community of a network of like-minded people can really help you just to combat some of that instant gratification, because this is an ongoing process that requires consistent effort and, most importantly, self-reflection. Had I not stopped to self-reflect on why I'm avoiding planning out my year and understanding like, oh, I'm scared that none of this is going to happen and that I'm going to waste my time, I'm going to waste someone else's time, or worse, I'm going to do it and not enjoy it. But that's the beauty of life, and I accept all parts of it, and developing a mindset focused on long-term rewards and implementing these strategies can really help you make more deliberate choices aligned with your goals. Your goals. So, do your best to maintain a positive outlook on life, positive mindset, and accepting and knowing that there are great opportunities on the other side of this action, of your discipline. So I hope this conversation and this topic of instant gratification helped you in some way, provided you value and actionable steps you can take today in order to just slow down, and embrace that it's okay to delay some of that gratification. And of course, if you are in need of instant gratification, what is it that you can do that isn't going to throw everything off in a way that you're going to have to do double or triple the work to fix it? I'm curious. Let's talk about it. Let me know. And if you do want to schedule a one-on-one with me, all of my coaching stuff will be under the name First Class Dreams. So if you go to firstclassdreams.com, firstclassdreams.com, more on that topic in future episodes, but go to firstclassdreams.com to learn about my coaching. If you want to learn more about this podcast, you can go to transactioncarepodcast.com or simply transactioncare.com to see all of the services and featured interviews that I've done on this podcast. You can follow and subscribe on my YouTube and my social media as well. One-on-one coaching with me directly is available, as well as an 8-week program for those ready to invest in themselves, in their journey, in their future. And I'm here to uplift and encourage you all on a daily basis, and continuing to demystify the business of real estate, because there's so many layers to business, entrepreneurship, even real estate, that aren't just about sales prices, statistics, etc. Let's get into the mind. Let's get into self building, our personal development journeys towards greatness for ourselves and how we define success, because we got this. You are not alone. I'm here to support. Let me know how I can help. And until the next episode, my name is Lillian Hernandez, aka Lily like the flower, because we are learning and growing together. And this is the Transaction Care Podcast. I'm giving you the keys. There are no gatekeepers here. Care for yourself, care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Talk soon.